If you look at the Red Sea on a map, it resembles a slug. To the south, its tail separates Djibouti from Yemen. Up at its head, the thicker, longer antenna is the Gulf of Suez, and the smaller, thinner, shorter one is the Gulf of Aqaba. Between them lies the Sinai Peninsula. At the very tip of the Gulf of Aqaba is Jordan's coastline, which is only about 17 miles long. Picking up where we left off last time, on day 8 of our trip, our driver, Mahmoud II, picked us up in Wadi Rum and we headed to Aqaba, which takes a little over an hour by car. I had gotten scuba certified the previous year during COVID. Wendy has been certified since her teens, and we chose the Red Sea for our first dive together. We considered bookending this trip in Egypt and diving on that side, but at the time, COVID tests made entry into multiple countries really expensive. And Jordan was already near the top of our list, so we figured this would be a perfect way to check off both our first dive together and exploring this spectacular country. When we arrived, our room wasn't ready, so they offered to upgrade us to a junior suite at a discounted price. We opted to take the upgrade. Well, hello, Wendy. What's that outside?
I was just looking at the view.
What's out there?
It looks like the Red Sea.
Oh my goodness. Our first order of business was to find a grocery store to stock up on snacks and such. I was also desperate to find a pharmacy. See, on day 4, as we were getting ready to leave the Dead Sea, I fell down some stairs, tearing a ligament in my left ankle and breaking the first 3 toes on my right foot. So for the past several days, I had been making do with this fairly useless crepe bandage, and I was hoping to find a decent brace. We ran these errands by taxi, a bit surprised when the supermarket turned out to be a Safeway, which we also have here at home. The pharmacy we found was run by a female pharmacist. I only mention this because all of the retail shops that we encountered in Jordan were run by men, often groups of men. But over the course of our trip, we visited 4 pharmacies, 3 of which were run by women. Which speaks to the tidbit I mentioned in our Intro to Jordan video that in recent years, more Jordanian women are getting advanced degrees than men. I was able to find 2 different types of ankle brace, so I bought them both. During this excursion, it started raining, and it was still raining when we got back to the hotel, so I recorded the following clip. So, first full day in Aqaba, and apparently we brought the rain with us. They said our taxi driver just told us it hasn't rained in years, so I guess we brought it with us. The rain didn't last long, so we changed our clothes and headed down to the pool, where we relaxed with some food and drinks. The grounds are beautiful. Unfortunately, during our visit, the pool was not heated, and the swim-up bar was closed. So, Wendy. Yes.
Yes, Stedman?
At least the jacuzzi was open, so that was excellent. But it closed at 4 o'clock, which sucked. There was live entertainment on the beach at night. I actually used this song during a map transition in the Dead Sea video. And one of the coolest parts of this was that when the performance was done, they put on pre-recorded music and let folks from the audience use the stage as a dance floor. The hotel also offers a package where a chef grills your dinner at your table on the beach. And as with everywhere we went in Jordan, there were opportunistic cats in Aqaba too. There are 5 restaurants at the intercontinental Aqaba, but during our stay, they were hit and miss. The Corniche is the main buffet restaurant, but apparently they only open if there are more than 25 paying guests. And since this was the off-season and just after COVID, they were only open a few of the 6 days we were there. The deli cafe near the lobby was open, but only serving a partial menu. And I don't think Martini's Steakhouse was open at all while we were there. We mostly ordered food from the beachfront bar. We had an early dinner one evening at Burj Al Hammam, the Lebanese restaurant on site, and it was excellent. That first afternoon, we were watching the different water activities from our balcony. There was one in particular that looked really fun to Wendy. We just call it the couch, a giant inflatable sofa that gets towed behind a speedboat. As we watched them take a curve at high speed, someone flew out of the couch, ass over tea kettle, several times before splashing down. It was hilarious. And we wanted to try it. So the next day we did, and I got some of it on video. Here you go.
Going on the couch. Going on the couch. You ready?
Yes.
We're on the Red Sea. We're playing on the Red Sea. Woohoo, look at me on the Red Sea. Right on the edge of the wave. Woo! I thought I was going to go over the wave.
Are you getting tired of laughing yet?
I can do this all day long.
Many, many minutes later.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
All right, that's it.
Oh, my hands are so. I've got salt snot and salt tears. That was very fun.
That was awesome.
That was really, really fun.
Also on the second day, due to my injuries, I was a little gun shy about going diving. Mostly, I was worried that I might not be able to manage my fins. So Wendy suggested I head down to the beach and make a test run in the swimming area. It wasn't exactly comfortable, but I figured I'd be able to manage at least one dive the next day. We had not booked our dives in advance. However, I had done a fair amount of research ahead of time, and I'd gotten the best vibe from actually the same dive shop which Muhammad in Wadi Rum had recommended. Seems like a no-brainer, right? This is where things go downhill. We could have easily taken a taxi to the shop in question, but we discovered that there was a PADI certified outfit on site at the hotel and decided to just go there. This was mostly my doing. The more time I spent on my feet, the more miserable I got. So I justified it with something like, hey, they're PADI certified, they must be good to be in business with a big hotel like this. The water activities at this hotel are operated by independent contractors out of a shack at the end of the beach. You don't book them through the hotel. This should have been a warning sign. We booked a 2-dive trip for the following morning and were repeatedly admonished to be there on time or the boat would leave without us. Well, we were there on time, but had to wait 40 minutes for this super entitled couple from another hotel. At the 15-minute mark, we should have just asked for our money back and walked away. This was our second mistake. Since we were so late getting to the dive site, when we finally arrived, it became a mad dash to get everyone geared up and into the water. For anyone unfamiliar with diving, one of the most important aspects is equalizing your ears. As we descend, the surrounding pressure increases while the pressure in your middle ear remains the same. This imbalance can be really painful if not addressed. And by equalizing, we rebalance the pressure in our middle ear to match the pressure at whatever depth we're at. And it is something that absolutely must not be rushed. Wendy had told them this was a chronic problem for her and that she needed to descend very slowly. Our dive master completely ignored her and acted very cavalier about the whole thing. When we were back on the boat, Wendy had a nosebleed from aggressively trying to equalize her ears for so long. Her hearing was affected for the next couple of days too. Now, we're not claiming that Wendy's life was in danger during the dive, just that our guide was inexperienced, impatient, arrogant, and utterly lacking empathy. And for Wendy, diving for the rest of the week was over. I'll now tell you the name of the dive shop I had initially wanted to book with, the outfit that Mohammed in Wadi Rum had recommended. I've withheld it till this point because I wanted to separate them from the shop that shall remain nameless that we found on the beach by the hotel. The name you want to remember is Red Coral Dive Center, and the next day we called them to see if we could get some snorkeling in before we had to go home. So on our fourth day in Aqaba, 11th overall in Jordan, we were picked up in the Red Coral van by an amiable guy named Aban. He delivered us to the dive shop and seemed to disappear. We went inside, where Carlos took excellent care of us. We were basically piggybacking on a day that was already booked, but they made us feel welcome and patiently listened to our story. About 10 minutes after we got there, Aban reappeared with a platter of grilled flatbread. I initially declined, only because I tend to worry about needing to bathroom in a wetsuit. Wendy, on the other hand, has a strict policy of never turning down free food. So she took a piece, and after a single bite, encouraged me to grab some before it was gone, saying, "It's basically grilled cheese. And hot bread with melted cheese is kind of my thing." It was delicious. On our first day with Red Coral, unfortunately for Aban, he was suffering some pretty serious back pain. So while everyone else was diving, he got saddled with guiding our snorkeling trip. That night, Wendy once again improvised an ice pack for my ankle. Next, we had our second day with Red Coral, in which Aban again picked us up, but this time it was in his personal truck rather than the company van. On this day, we still had Aban and Carlos as our main contacts, but they were both needed as guides for the scuba tours that day, so we snorkeled above them with another guide. Luckily, Aban kept the fun going from down below. After the first dive, the guys offered for the umpteenth time to take me out for a dive. Wendy encouraged me to go for it. I demurred since I was sure they hadn't brought the gear that I would need. And they were like, no, yeah, we got it in the van. You want to go? Now, keep in mind, this was the site that I had most wanted to dive in Aqaba. It's the sunken C-130 Hercules. So I lit up like Times Square, very excited at the idea. I even stood up and started walking to the van before having a crushing realization. We were flying back to Amman the next day, which meant I couldn't dive. The lesson I learned that day was to take dive opportunities when they arise, because you may never return to that spot again, which is exactly why Wendy had encouraged me to go for it the day before. I was pretty bummed for a couple of minutes, but then Aban offered to go out snorkeling with me one more time. And much of the memorable underwater footage I have was captured by him. He free-dived down to the Hercules for me. He filmed the scorpion fish. And he even hand-caught the distant sunfish I spotted. On the drive back, we encountered some roadworks, and Aban showed us how the locals handle such situations. He also invited us to come back, and when we did, to take a trip to Wadi Rum with him in his truck. Yes, please. To wrap up, we consider Aqaba to be a must-visit if you're heading to Jordan. We were there mostly for access to the Red Sea, but Aqaba is hugely important historically to the region. Just ask T.E. Lawrence. Like the rest of Jordan, the people are warm and accommodating. The hotel was very nice, even if the lingering effects of COVID hampered things a bit. Some of the disappointments were not entirely in their control. We believe Aqaba is the best destination if you plan a dive adventure in the Red Sea. Just make sure you pay attention to reviews and recommendations so you don't make the mistakes we did. In other words, just book with Red Coral. You can thank us later. And lastly, hey Aban, I know you're watching, and I hope this one was worth the wait. Meeting you was a high point of our trip, as has been keeping in touch ever since. Everybody stay tuned for the final episode in the Jordan series, Jerash.
I made it.
Yep. It's been there 2,000 years. I think I'm okay.
Famous last word.
Yeah.